Now, our next talk is by Dave Mclean. He's a geographer. He's on the GIS faculty at Nova Scotia's Centre of Geographic Sciences, that many of us know as COGS. He's a man of multiple talents in the world of geospatial technology. He's renowned for being able to identify places on Earth in pictures taken from the International Space Station and curating those with ArcGIS to share with the world. Dave has contributed immensely to many Canadian education initiatives, a lot of outreach. He works very hard with building community awareness of geospatial technologies and applications. And I know we owe him a huge thank you for his outreach and education efforts. And he will continue that now with his presentation, Earth Through the Cameras of Astronauts and Cosmonauts. Dave, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity this afternoon. Thank you to the GeoIgnite and the Royal Canadian Geographical Society. Now, and what great sessions earlier from Gord and Tanya. Really enjoyed those, eye-opening. For anybody who wants to, you can follow along with this link. It works best on a computer, but it works all right on a phone as well. There'll be a couple of things that don't quite follow the same. Or you can use it later on, because there are a few Easter eggs inside here that you can find later on when you're going through it on your own. And I think that that link has also been posted on the chat. Let's just take about half a minute and go through these 3 North American cities and 2 provinces and see if you can identify them. And we'll just go through them, probably go through them twice, see if you can identify and see where these spots happen to be. These are samples of pictures taken by astronauts and cosmonauts on the International Space Station. And I just wanted to give you a chance to get a sense of what these look like. These 4 are all north up. And give you a sense of the imagery at nighttime and during the day. Many people are fascinated by these pictures of our Earth taken by astronauts and cosmonauts on board the International Space Station. I got turned on to these near the start of Chris Hadfield's mission, as did so many other Canadians and people around the world. My name, Dave Mclean. I'm a GIS faculty at COGS in the Annapolis Valley, and it's part of the Nova Scotia Community College. The nature of my talk is seeing our world from 400 kilometers up. So this is the map that I made for Hadfield and Marshburn's mission. I made it for 2 reasons. One, as a way of demoing the online interactive map technology from my students. And the second one was a way to help address questions on Twitter about where is that? So here's a case where the picture that Chris Hadfield sent was his text, "Fishbone cloud artistically made by St. Helena Island and the Atlantic waters." But why don't we hear a little bit from Chris on what it's like to see the world from 400 kilometers up.
Hey, Dave, thanks for the invitation to join you and talk a little bit here. I've been so lucky to have been around the world 2,650 times, and countless times I had cameras in my hand with a long lens to try and get to know our world without any filters in the way, and the greatest tripod perhaps in human history below me. In those voyages around the world, at first it was overwhelming, but after a while I really started to get better at looking at the world and almost like some sort of artistic sniper of trying to find something that with the correct angle of the sun and the gap in the cloud and the timing and the light at the time of day, suddenly you could see something you hadn't seen in any previous orbit. Learning to look back where the sun glint reflection is, or look ahead where the shadows are long. And at one point, we came across the Pacific and we're cutting across Mexico, which is, of course, quite narrow. You go across Mexico, just in a matter of seconds. And I was looking down, and because that part of the world is so dry, up the west coast of the Americas, there are salt lakes, and they really stand out just because of the brightness of the white reflective nature of the salt in the surrounding, often volcanic brown. And one of them just caught my eye, and I took a picture, and it wasn't just this white shape of lake, but there was an actual sort of a face from the side shape to the lake. And then I assume it was lava, but there was something beside it that could have been, Medusa's hair. And I just thought, that's like a face waiting to be drawn. And so I took the picture of it, and then afterwards in my little sleep berth on the space station, I looked at that picture. And I don't have any great Photoshop skills, but I know there are a lot of people around the world who do. But it's important that people feel a sense of identity with the whole planet. And that doesn't happen accidentally. It happens through knowledge and people addressing it. And so I just put it out to everybody. Hey, draw a face, and I'll retweet or talk about the best entries. And it's delightful to share something that was personal to you and immediately have thousands or tens of thousands, or I guess if you just count the people that are aware of it, hundreds of thousands of people around the world that suddenly make this part of their knowledge base. And awareness of the health of our world and the state of our world and the future of our world really starts with fundamentally understanding that it's a shared, small, round world. That whole idea of a geographical identity, and making not just my particular little square of it, but the whole thing as the place that I'm from. To me, that was a large part of my objective. So when you can have fun with it, other people can participate. Suddenly, the whole world becomes our own. Take care, Dave.
So where are those images around that face lake in northern Mexico? Let's just go back to that map very briefly. There's a bookmark. Sorry. There's a bookmark, one that's called Face Lake. And this is Chris's tweet about it. This is what it looks like. And there's the Medusa's hair and such. Great description, I know. And if a person looks at some of these other ones, you get to see things like, oh, here you go. And it's a picture of Chris on that one. This one has some sort of a character drawn in. And this one has a mustache superimposed. But there are 8 or 9 of those around that area that caught his interest and are still there. So that's that area that he spoke about in Mexico. Time for another 30-second quiz here. Let's go with a city, a country, a crater, a river, another province, maybe even a little bit of a country in here as well. And can you identify those areas? Just have a look at those and see if they work into your brain. In this case, north isn't always up. Always fun pictures to look at. Another astronaut, Ricky Arnold, wrote this note back to me. Personally, the time in the cupola and social media has shaped the way I view Earth on a daily basis. Before my stay on the ISS, if someone were to mention Tahiti, the image I conjured was based on photographs, film, pure imagination or speculation, likely from reading Mutiny on the Bounty as a kid. I've never been to Tahiti. Now, when I hear someone mention Tahiti, the image that pops to mind is from 400 kilometers overhead. This sort of thing happens daily on a daily basis, whether in conversation or just listening to the news. My reference frame has changed. For a more personal example, I spoke to my daughter from ISS while she was in Bariloche, Argentina. That same day, we flew over Bariloche, and this image happens to be the area around that area. And it's one that he took. It's not that day, but it's of that area. Today, when we speak Bariloche, we have a shared experience, but a very different perspective of that beautiful place. He continues with, the photos that I post are intended to take viewers to that moment in time when I captured the image and to share some of the emotion I experienced seeing all of this from above. I also try to remind them that this place we call Earth is pretty small and very special. Sharing a laugh every now and then, that's a good thing too. Switching gears a little bit, interactions on Twitter, a companion to the West pin. Many people venture replies about a place and or images of an area from the ground. Here's an example by Thomas Pesquet. Psychedelic shapes on the east coast of the Persian Gulf, to which Space Pick fan DB Star 25 replied, Tabal Iran, thanks for sharing this great shot. And very soon after, Zorpex, who lives in Tehran, added, this is what it's like actually, and shared one of his photographs. Here's another interaction on Twitter. Here's an example of a follower adding labels, helping others with the where of this shot of Eastern Australia. And the ability to be able to, first of all, notice these and then indicate them in a picture and add them back to the Twitter timeline is a nice big help. Sometimes interactions on Twitter 3, sometimes creative geometricians provide a rough georeference showing the impact of low oblique. And this is one that the picture was approximately, didn't look like that, but the oblique when put back on the face of the Earth gives that sort of a shape. And every once in a while, there's an astronaut who might shout out something like, hey, over 100 pins. This was partway through Soichi's mission that's just about wrapped up when he hit the 100 pins on his map. There are some places where the geography is often recognized and spoken about, and they often have lots of conversation amongst the Twitterverse. Here are 3 shots of Manakawagan over 3 different time frames. One of them was by an astronaut at mission control, and it just happened that the image coming back from the space station was of Manakawagan. Mount Fuji often gets a lot of conversation as well. Here it is over the course of about 3 years. And Mount Etna and its volcano and its ash. Once again, north is rarely up. And then there's the blues of the Bahamas, wonderful colors and lovely looking islands and such. Well, after seeing considerable interest in this Hadfield map, it was an easy decision to make more of these mission-specific maps. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. And I've already expanded this, so I'm just going to click over to look at a few of these sorts of things. Some of them have different templates so that the maps look different. Some of them have different base maps so that the base map is different as well. But all of them continue to have a message, the picture itself. Many of them also have a link to high res if anyone wants to go after and find those sorts of things. Here's one that's done with a different map projection to give people a different sense of what the world through a different perspective. Some of them one of them uses a dashboard. So there's information that's laid out around the map and such. And I think you might have just noticed that the latitude and longitude of the ISS, which changes every minute on all of these maps, was also updated on the bottom of this particular one. Here's a map that was a one orbit. So from over a 92-minute session, the astronauts had a social media event. And in this case, the question was, hey, Asia, your turn. Help us capture a moment in time with a picture from your neighborhood and use this hashtag. Along with an army of 17 or 18 students, we then used Survey 123 to position those based on the community name that the person put in their tweet. So there's a variety of images taken over a 92-minute period, displaying a little bit of information about parts of the world. And here's one where the backdrop is the scan of the actual paper orbital chart that John Glenn took to space. This particular chart is in our map library at COGS in Lawrencetown, and it makes a really unique and cool backdrop. Gord mentioned David's mission, and his pictures and such are also taken and put on a globe so that you can get a chance to see some of the things that he did while he was on the ISS not too long ago. Same sort of idea with these pictures and abilities to use them. And why do I say pin to the west? Excuse me. Well, here's an example. If you go to this green K and look at the text that could put up, Sergey, sorry. His text is, I think, known as indifferent to mountains. I myself am one of those huge mountain fans. But I've got here for labels, see the pin to the west. So this is one of the pins to the west, where somebody, Info Shy Kent, took the same picture and put a number of labels on it, helping other people get a feel for what this sort of stuff looks like. Skipping back to another astronaut, this time the words from Samantha Cristoforetti, ESA astronaut, and some of the pictures that she took in the background. I specifically chose white to make it harder to read, but at first, seeing the world from space is an overwhelming aesthetic experience. You're in awe as you admire the beauty. Then as days go by, the earth out the window becomes your companion. It's an experience you keep going back to. In between tasks, between exercise sets, you think, let's take a peek, see where we are. Eventually, you start to recognize places that initially were completely foreign. You even start to guess what part of the world you're overflying just by the color of the light that comes through the cupola windows. And all the world becomes your backyard, and all humans become your neighbors. So we end where we started, 400 kilometers over China, with this image of the space station. And we look forward to Trevor's session coming up next. And once again, those links are at the bottom. So thank you for your time. Thank you, GeoIgnite, RCGS, and you folks for your time this afternoon.